drives you? What inspires you? Let's ignite your why. Welcome back to Ignite Your Why podcast. I'm your host, Austin T. Gullett, and we're here to have genuine conversations with authentic people to help amplify their voice and figure out what ignites their why. Today's guest was born and raised in Maryland. And a few years ago, he moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and he is currently working towards his bachelor's degree at Miami International University of Art and Design. Currently, he's working as an interior designer, and I'm so excited to have this conversation today. So let's give a warm welcome to Mr. Tyler Bradshaw. Tyler, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
You know, living, killing it. I feel like I'm living the best life I can, taking it day by day. Just soccer season's winding down for me, so excited to have a break. I'm not going to lie, so.
I can only imagine.
Man, it is draining, and it is going to be a much needed break, and it will give me more time to devote to this podcast. So I'm excited, but enough about me. This is about you. So speaking of you, let's just hop straight into this, man. So what is your story?
Well, like you said, I was born and raised in Maryland, so I guess it's considered, depending on who you ask, they would say it's the country. So I'm very much used to like being outside in the woods like that. That's my thing.
Not me.
I love it. Actually, I literally have a tattoo of the forest on my arm because I just love the woods. I've always loved nature. I've always loved being outside. Um, Grew up in a really, really, really big family. I am the second of four kids. So sometimes I feel like I'm actually the oldest, or an only child, depends on which parent you ask. But no, I always grew up having fun. However, my family nickname is Bam Bam because I was really bad. Um, I was like that kid where like if something was like on the table and it looked breakable, I wanted to see how bad it could break. And that was just my like forte. My mom said I used to literally like go in the kitchen and just pull everything out the fridge just to like see how things like I was always someone who was curious about how things broke, what it looked like, I was just a curious kid. So I just always did fun stuff, and that's how I got the nickname Bam Bam. It was fun. I would hide things. Uh, Family would come over and have to hide their stuff from me because I would hide it from them. Um, just fun. I was always very artistic. Me and my grandfather would literally like always paint, draw. We was always building something or putting something together. So it was just like I just always a very hands-on kid.
Yeah. And it's funny when you're talking because, like you say, you like to destroy things. And I just think back to like when me and my brother were kids. And my brother had the most patience in the entire world because I would literally he would like play with these like toy animals and like line them up like the Lion King and everything. And I would just run through and just knock them all down.
Yeah. That was pretty much me. I feel like if I could get my hands on it and I could figure out how it broke, I was going to break it. Or if the crazy part is I would break it so I could put it back together. So it was like
that's interesting.
It was like a double-edged sword. Like I don't know if you've ever seen the show Young Sheldon. There was an episode where he was like, it was a noise in the fridge that was bothering him. So he took the entire fridge apart to put it back together. And that is something that I would do.
Yeah, not me.
That sounds like too much work. Patience for it. I don't know why.
See, I don't have the patience. I would just be like, "Oh, let's just buy a new fridge."
Yeah, pretty much. Well, ultimately that's what his family ended up doing was just buying another fridge. But typically, what my family would have done. But I've always been very hands-on, very fun. I just love being outside. I enjoy life. One of my mottos is literally life is a joke, so I'm gonna treat it as such and just live my best life every time I get. Other than that, I mean, I wouldn't even say I was like a popular kid. I just mingled in like every group, so it was like everyone knew me, but I didn't like consider myself like the in crowd. I was just like everybody. I
Yeah.
just want to talk to everybody. Like, why not be
You
friends with
just
everyone?
you just have that like personality and that like vibe where you can just get along
Yeah,
and fit in with everyone. So I definitely get what you're saying because it is definitely a thing. But
and it's
you have that vibe about you. Like this is my first time like talking to you and meeting you, and you just make it so comfortable. Like you make people feel comfortable to talk to you because I usually with me like I'm super nervous when I'm meeting new people, but like you just have that like vibe and that I'm looking for a specific word that I can't think of right now, but it's
um,
like I I don't know what word I'm looking for, but you have it.
it's it's crazy because literally like I thought it was something that I developed within like talking with like family and stuff. It was like, no, you were always like this. There's like you were always very forward. You were always very like my aunt. I think she told me a story. I think she said I was like 4, and I don't even remember it. But she was like, yeah, you just like we were at the playground, and you just was having a conversation with a kid, and like she's like the things you were saying. I was just like, why is this coming out of a 4-year old? And I was like, I don't know, but I enjoy conversation. And I think
Hmm.
a lot of times we steer away from that, or we're missing that element. But I just enjoy conversation. I feel like why not meet new people and learn new things? And I've literally always been like that.
Hey, it's not a bad thing. And I think, especially as you're getting older, because connections are so important in every aspect of life, whether it's personal or professional. If you know someone who knows someone, it really does go a long way. I will harp on that from the very like to end of my lifespan is make connections with people regardless of what you're doing in life because you never know when you might need that connection.
Yeah,
Honestly.
and I will say what it did for me growing up was, of course, I was able to mingle and meet and talk to a lot of people. But what I will say, the bad part about it was for me was that I feel like it created this image in my head that I always had to be perfect.
Mm,
And that's when I noticed, like, going into like middle school and high school and then becoming adult, it was just like I was putting this pressure on myself to be perfect because that's what I felt like everybody was seeing. And then eventually
hmm.
I was just like, that's just not me. I'm not perfect.
Right.
I'm imperfectly perfect. And I do things, I live life. I like to say somewhere down the line, I got signed up to be God's toughest soldier and now I can't get out the contract. So I do unfortunately, like most people, have to go through the test to get to my testimony. And it wasn't always easy. I think for me, like honestly, like being black, being gay, being from the countries of Maryland, and just trying to make it out of that area and be something more. Because if you hear, like, especially people from Maryland, like I'm originally from Waldorf, Maryland, and not a lot of people from there grow and be something new. So it's like you
Hey,
just want to go.
I get it. I get it because I just had this conversation with Vivian on the last episode where it was just where you're from doesn't define you,
Right.
right? It does play a part in who you are as a person, but it's not the epitome of who I am as a person. Like I don't know how else to really explain it because yes, I love Covington. I'm from Covington, Kentucky. I will own that 100% every single day of my life. Like, I love being from Covington, but being from Covington does not define who I am. It just plays a little piece into a part of my story and my journey. I'll never forget where I came from. And I think that's the biggest thing. But
Yeah.
hearing you talk, I have one question for you because I'm just like, I can relate to this in a little sense where I tried to be perfect in everything that I did, but I also felt like I was not truly authentically being me because I was trying to fit in to the crowd I was talking to. So do you
Hmm.
ever feel like you were just kind of like code switching into whatever group you were with and you never truly made that like friend group, right? You had like these acquaintances that you would talk to all the time and like whether it was in sports or at school or whatever it may be, but then outside of that it was kind of just like, oh fuck, I'm by myself.
Um, for me, it was a double-edged sword because I feel like on one hand I didn't know who I was, but on the other
Hmm.
hand I was 100% code switching because, like I said, I was like going through so many friend groups that like it sounds so like TV shows, but literally in high school it was like I knew how to fit in with the theater kids. I knew how to fit in with the people that played sports. I knew how to fit in with the mean girls. I knew how to fit in with all of these people, and I was able to jump from conversation to conversation to conversation, code switch. Now it does help as an adult when you're going into certain rooms and you're like, you gotta you kind I hate to say you have to switch it up, but like in some
Hmm.
cases you do have to like code switch a little bit. But I didn't realize how much of a toll it took on me until I graduated. Because then it's like now you're going into college, you're going into adult world, and it's like, how do I now figure out who I truly am when I've been 14 other people this thus far?
Right.
So it's just like,
Yep.
okay, well, do I continue to be 14 other people or do I just be Tyler?
Period.
But then once, once I became Tyler, I realized that like he's likable on his own.
Yep.
Everybody like I hate saying it like that because I feel like it sounds so unhumble. But it's like everyone does love to be around me, and it's just like when I walk into spaces, I know that I am me, and I'm authentically me, and it's like if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. I used to really want people to like me, and now I'm just like I can't be everyone's cup of tea.
That's the mindset to have. It's not an
Yeah.
easy mindset to have. It is not easy, but it is the right mindset to have.
Oh no, it's definitely hard. About a couple therapy bills later, I finally figured it out. But nonetheless, we are finally here.
And I'm so proud of you for being
Thanks.
authentically you and owning yourself and being proud. I think it just is a true testament of who you are as a person, and it radiates. And I just love seeing people just flourish in their true self. So
Hmm.
I'm proud of you,
On,
man.
Thank you so much. Honestly, what I realized with therapy was that I had to go back to like a pivotal point in my life where I was the most fun and most authentic, and it was literally like I would say like elementary school to middle school because I was always like a I'm very talented at a lot of things. And growing up, my family is very creative, but
Hmm.
like I just got like the true creative bone. So I was always like singing, dancing, doing art, painting, writing. Like I've always done everything creative. And I feel like at that time in my life, I had a lot of people in my corner who was truly like not saying, oh, you have to be this person or this person. They were
Hmm.
truly letting me just figure it out. um, Between like my mom, my grandmother, my aunt, and her daughter, them four really truly like molded me in the sense of be who you are, tackle whatever you want to tackle whatever it is that you want to do right now, but it's okay to switch it up until you know where you're at. And when I say my mom, well, all four of them has literally helped me through a fashion career, architecture career, a culinary career. They have pretty much bought out any store that had all of the supplies for me to try something. And of course,
Hey,
we
those are
finally
real
landed on what
ones.
I actually
Hey,
love, but they pushed
those are
me in the
real ones.
direction of just like, we're going to let you figure out who you are. We can't tell you who you
And
are.
that's how it should be. And I think that's the most beautiful thing because there's so many other people in this world who have a lot of like influences that kind of like push them to try to be something that they don't want to be. And I think I have this
Mm-hmm.
motto where it's just do what you want to do, because in life you're not going to make everyone happy, you're going to make mistakes and you're going to upset people, but what truly matters the most is, am I doing what I love? Am I doing what I need to do for myself to be the most authentic happy self that I can
Yeah.
be? And that's really what it comes down to. And I know you've alluded to your creative side, and it kind of makes me want to hop into this next segment here because it's a big chunk of this entire podcast and I'm excited to learn more. So what is it that truly inspires you, but more importantly, what is it that ignites your why?
People. Um, I love. I'm gonna say this. I love people to a certain extent. Sometimes I'd be like, okay, right, all right, getting on my nerves, but I get my joy from people's happiness and
Hmm.
people's joy and people's laughter and people's like just hunger for things. So I typically like gravitate towards people who are just I hate to say hungry because then it puts on that narrative that we have to work, 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 work. But I just enjoy people who have a passion. And when I
Hmm.
say passion, I mean like even if you want to be the best burger flipper at McDonald's, if you have passion behind it, I enjoy it, I love it, and I am behind you 10 toes down. And if I have to buy you a grill to put on your back porch to be the best at it, then we'll do that. Um, but I've just always enjoyed just people's light and happiness. And it's always been like my driving point, which in the creative world, I feel like a lot of times our light is dimmed because it's not really like the most sought after career because it's technically not practical for most people.
Hmm.
Um, so I just enjoy people that really just, I enjoy things and I enjoy people that are going after what they love. And it took me years to go after truly what I love, which is interior design, of course. And it's just my why. And then, of course, like I think most people's why is like, of course, their family. They want to make a better life for their family and be bigger and be bolder. But I don't want to leave this earth without knowing that I have put a smile on someone's face with anything that I've done or touched.
Hey, I don't blame you there. I'm the same way. I feel it just is something special about knowing that you're making a difference, especially in people's lives. Like for me, it's kids. I love being able to be a positive influence and guide them to the right path of success, especially just with where I come from and just the statistical numbers that people put and the stereotypes that people put on people. It's crazy to me, and I I'm not a creative person. Well, I can't say I'm not a creative person because I have this podcast and it's like a form of creating. But when it comes to like artistic stuff, whether it's just painting, drawing, I suck. I have no creative bone in my body when it comes to drawing or painting or anything of that nature. But when it comes to writing and using my words, I am a completely different person. So my question for you is just how did you find interior design as your love and what made you truly decide to pursue it as your career?
I avoided it for years. I avoided it for years because I think when you truly have a passion for something, your mind kind of almost tells you like you may not be good enough or I actually just had this conversation with my therapist where I was like, when you're passionate about something and God writes your story. You know, he's in control of everything. I always had this fear that like I would start designing and I would blow up within a couple months and just be this best thing in the world. But then I would feel bad because the person who's been designing for 10 years, they're still waiting on their turn. And I never wanted
Mm,
to like step on anyone's toes. But then I had to realize like everyone has their own journey and
right. I was
I
just about to
can't
say.
really stop myself because someone else that I think is better than me is still in line for 10 years and they called my name in 6 months. I've always had a fear of that, but what made me actually realize that I wanted to do design was it was my freshman year in college and I was in a fashion class and I think the assignment was like we were designing dresses, but instead of me drawing, the room was so plain that
Mhm.
instead of me drawing what was in the room, I was redesigning the room that I was in on paper. And I was just like, it just was off. It didn't have a creativeness to it. It didn't have like, instead of me being inspired to draw a dress, I felt like I was in a jail cell. Like, it was just like something has to change. So then I
Yeah.
realized and I started like talking with family, and they kind of start unlocking things that you forgot about as kids. And they were like, Tyler, literally, we would leave for an hour and come home, and you would rearrange the entire house
That sounds like my
and
mom.
and redecorate the entire house. And I was just like, I did, and they were like, yeah, and we could never leave you alone because you would always redecorate or rearrange someone's house. And then it was like, you probably also don't remember, we kept taking you to Home Depot because you would build forts in the woods for your friends and create like this whole landscape in the woods with just stuff you found around the neighborhood, plywoods and broken fences
Hmm.
and tires. Like I literally was just making something out of nothing. Um, and I just really didn't realize that I've been designing since then. But once they started explaining it to me and I started looking into it, I was like, okay, no, I really do enjoy this.
Right.
And it wasn't until like I started, once I switched majors, of course, we had internships. And what really solidified it for me, even though I didn't even like, I wasn't even really designing at this point, I was just in school. There was a company named Kobe Carp, and I literally, where our dorm was, his building was like probably like a block or two down, and he's like a really renowned designer and
Hmm.
architect. So one day I just kept walking past, and I was like, one day I'm going to work there. One day I'm going to work there. We'll just see how this goes. And at the time I was working for Apple, and I literally was in the store, and there was this little boy that ran past me with a Kobe Carp sweater on, and I was like, I think I was talking to my coworker, and I was like, oh yeah, I wanted to work for that company, but I don't know how to get in. And I kid you not, I was putting on screensavers for everyone, and the next person to come up to me was Kobe Carp himself. And
That's insane.
within having a conversation with him, he said, "I will see you on Monday."
Period.
And I was like, "Huh?" And he was like, "I will see you in my office bright and early on Monday." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." Coming for an interview, and literally as soon as I walked in, he was like, "Here's your laptop. Here's your desk. Here's the person you're going to be working next to. We're going to make sure you make something out of this career." And ever since then, I just haven't stopped.
that's that's God working right there. I'm telling you right now. I'm
Listen,
telling you
I was stuck.
that.
I had to take a break. I was like, y'all have to give me like 15 minutes to gather what the heck just happened because it was just like, it was great. But then again, like I said, it was scary because again, I felt like, what's the
Mhm.
difference between me and the other people that I go to school with? What's the
Listen,
difference between me and the seniors? And then I was like,
mm-mm. Your journey is unique to you, man. And I think
yeah,
that's the thing is sometimes in life we just kind of are so used to just comparing ourselves to what someone else is doing. But we have to realize that our journey is our journey. Shit's gonna happen the way it's supposed to happen when it happens. And that's just how it works, honestly. And yes, like some people get there faster and some people take much, much longer. But that's their story, and your story is
yeah.
yours. So don't ever look around and be like, oh, this person deserves it more than me because fuck that. Honestly, like you deserve it. Like that's
And,
how it should
and
be because are, you have to do what's best for you. Like I
yeah,
see it's kind of like a competition in a sense. And when you're going for a job, who cares who else applies for it? Just know that you have to put your best foot first every single time because you matter and your story matters, and it doesn't matter how you get there. It's just you have to enjoy every single moment along that path. And I don't ever want you to compare yourself to someone else ever again. Like I
no,
promise you,
and
like you shouldn't.
and I definitely appreciate that because like that's literally where I am now, where I'm just like, I hate to say unfortunately, but I'm just like, if it's happening for me, I can't sit back and not take it. If it's happening, it's happening, and I have to go for it.
Hmm.
And honestly, with interior design, that's when it goes back into my why of people, because I never really truly realized how much designing a space impacts a person's life. And it wasn't until even I took a color theory class and I didn't even realize that color matters for a lot of people and what they feel. And it's just like what a lot of people don't realize as interior designers is like, especially if you're dealing with like couples or families. Not only are you a designer, you are also a referee, you are also a therapist, you are also a couples therapist, you are also a babysitter, and possibly you're just a lot of things at this point. But the middle result is, of course, the messy part of it, which goes back to me as a kid. I get to rip stuff apart and put it back together. So that's enjoyable for me. But then at the end of it, you coming in and the look on your face and the immediate weight I could see that drops off of you just from your space being great or your room being perfect, it makes me happy.
As
And
it
like
should.
if the world was free, I would literally design it at no charge because it literally just makes people happy. But you know, we have to make a living. We can't do
Right.
that. So
It has to feel good knowing that you're making someone's home feel like their home. And I think that's the biggest thing as interior design. Sometimes it's just you're making someone else's dream come to a reality. That's how
right.
I see it sometimes. So especially if it's their house. I watch those
Basically.
shows. I watch those shows with my mom on HGTV sometimes, where like they, they flip the house or things of that nature. So I give people props. And when I was moving into my place, I was just like so excited to finally do what like I wanted to do for my apartment. I have like an aesthetic and a vision, and you can kind of see it like in this background. I like my favorite colors are baby blue and navy blue. So I think they go well together, and you add in gray, perfecto.
Right. And then it's just like if and for me it's like once it matches your personality and who you are as a person, then other people notice that. Like a lot of people come over
Hmm.
and kind of what they said to what you said earlier. My friend was here last night and he was just like, your house is just a home. Like it's just comfortable. Like I
My
just feel
friend
like I
said that
can
to
sit.
me.
He was like, I just feel like I can sit on your couch and just he was like, even if you're not here, I feel your presence
Hmm.
and then I just feel cozy. I just feel like I don't have to go nowhere. I don't have to move. And I'm like, well, hold on. You gotta leave at some point. But kick your feet up, relax, and just I just like for me, I like comfort. If
Hmm.
you've ever seen me in person, I literally wear basically a sweatsuit all year round. I just enjoy comfort. I don't want nothing extra. I don't need anything extra. I just enjoy comfort and just that's what it is. And I feel like design has really opened up a lot of that for me, and it's actually been very therapeutical for me because then I get to release those like any negative doubts or feelings or whatever it is. I get to release that
Hmm.
through design because one again, I get to break things and put it back together, and I get to put stuff together, and I have something to focus on. And I've just been doing it. I just didn't realize I've been doing it all like for my pretty much my entire life.
Right. Crazy
And
how things come full circle. It's
yeah,
crazy. It's
and
crazy.
it's
When you look back, it's just like, dang, it makes sense.
yeah, and then it's like I always knew I was destined to be something greater, but it was like I was so scared to like
Hmm.
put myself in the forefront. But then I think I have a picture. I might have taken it down, but my great grandfather, I was born in '97. He passed in '98 or '99. And my mom was like, literally one day he was in the house holding me, and she was like, he just looked at her and he said, "Look out for the baby with the big eyes because he's going to be something great and he's going to need a lot of protection." And I never really paid attention to it until I'm here now. And my mom was like, no, you're literally living what he said when you were just an infant. You are becoming something greater and don't stunt your growth at all. Just go for it. Just do it. And that's pretty much where I've been now. It's just, I'm just on go mode. It's just like, I can't, it's not going to happen if I'm on the couch asleep.
Right? You gotta work for shit in life. You gotta work for it. And I think that's the crazy thing. And the one thing you mentioned was how design can be so therapeutic for me. And it made me think of my favorite question of this entire podcast is just how have you been taking care of yourself mentally?
Um, I started doing things differently. I realized that something for me mentally wise is that once I get into a too much of a routine, I start to kind of spiral because I'm not allowing myself to rest or I'm not allowing myself to do different things. But now I'm like, I used to just always be on go, answer the phone for
Mm-hmm.
everyone, be ready to jump when people say jump. Sorry. But now I'm like, I'll take the nap. I will tell everyone like, hey, I know we were doing this, but I just can't make it. I stopped being the yes person and the people pleaser. I used to do it a lot, and it would weigh heavy on me because I would say the bad thing about everyone being like for me being so comforting to most people is that I become a therapist, and I'm not a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So then a lot of times people pile their things on me, and I used to just carry it and carry it and carry it. And it wasn't until I went to therapy, and shout out to my therapist, love her, but it wasn't until I went to therapy to where we were talking about the different things in life that I was going through. And it wasn't until she stopped me and said, is that your issue or their issue? And that's when I realized for years I was carrying everyone else's burden and
Mm-hmm.
not mine. Because by the time we knocked off half of the things that I thought was my issues, I realized that okay, life wasn't really that bad. I just had my best friend's problems, my mom's problems, my cousin's problems, my friend's problems. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was just piling everyone on, and now I'm just like, no. And I know
That's
how it.
that's the thing about being a people pleaser is you kind of lose sight on the thing that matters the most, which is yourself, which is really sad, honestly, because I'm the same way. I would, to this day, I would drop my everything that I'm doing to help somebody because that's just who I am. I think saying hard is probably one of the hardest. I think saying no is one of the hardest things for me to do, especially when I know someone needs me. It's just really hard, and when you think about it, it's kind of why I became an avoider in a sense because I suppress everything. I would push everything aside and not address myself because I want to help someone else. And
Mm-hmm.
it comes to a point in life where you just realize I need to stop doing this and really just take care of myself. And it's not easy. I will never say it will be easy, but it's something that I'm working on. And I think it's very interesting that you brought that up because I feel the same way. My therapist tells me all the time, she's like, Austin, take a step back and just focus on you because
Um,
it's so vital and so important.
it's extremely hard, but what I learned recently is that my therapist was like, there's a couple of things, but she was like, one, we have to work on boundaries. Boundaries was very hard for me because I usually never set them, and I was just like, I would just do
Hmm.
these things, and it's so weird because once you start setting boundaries and then you tell people the boundaries, it's almost like they have a mini heart attack. Like, wait, why are we doing this now? And I'm like, well, we have to because for years I let this go on, and then
Hmm.
now that I'm trying to protect myself, it's like I have to tell you to stop. And then if you continue, then where do we go from here? We can't. We're going to fall apart at this point if we do this. And it was boundaries was one of them, and I believe for me, I wasn't. I think she said it was assertiveness. I was not good at being assertive because again, like you said, I was an avoider. If I don't need to argue, or if I feel like I don't want to argue, I would avoid it. Or if I didn't want to acknowledge it, it was above me. I didn't care.
Hmm.
So I started to have to be more assertive because for people pleasers, people typically almost kind of run over you,
Yeah, they take
and
advantage of you.
they take advantage of it. So then it's just like, okay, now what do I do? Because I've been letting this go on for so long that when I change
Hmm.
it, am I going to lose a friend? Am I going to lose an associate? Am I going to lose a
No,
family member?
no, because in reality, if they're really your friend, they'll completely understand where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the 100% truth, because I got to the point, oh, dang, Gabby. I got to the point where I was just tired and exhausted of constantly being there for people. And then, but it's when it was time for me to have someone, like no one was there. And it
Yeah.
really got for me to show, it really showed me like people's true colors. And for the longest time, like as of recent, like I just stopped hitting people up, because I noticed that majority of my friendships were from me making the initiative and making the effort to reach out. And I was just like, all right, let me stop and see who is genuinely my friend and who actually reaches out to me. And little do you know, it,
The
it's,
number decreases, and it
mm-hmm,
decreases so quickly. And I used, it's funny that we even talk about this portion, because I literally just had a conversation with somebody about this, and they were just like, well, you're not friends with so and so, or we don't see you with them. And I'm like, it's not that I'm not friends with them, just I stopped being the one to reach out. So that's just where we are. And there's no hard feelings. There's no animosity. But it's just like,
yeah,
I
no love
can't,
lost.
I can't fix something that I didn't break.
Yeah.
And that has been something that me and my therapist has worked with, but then I've just been with in general with life. Is just, I can't, if I'm always the one to fix it, every time it breaks, you're going to always rely on me to be the one to come around and fix
Mm-hmm.
it. But when the repairman retires, what are we going to do?
Period.
Now, what do we do? Where do we go from
Right?
here when the
You
person
got
who
to fix it.
normally, yeah. So now it's like, okay, when your favorite repairman retires and then no one's available, who's going to do it? Now you have to fix it. And I've been doing that with friends. I've been doing that with relationships. I'm always going to be myself. I'm always going to be all in. But from now on, if you break that with me, you have to do the work to fix it. And if you don't do the work, there's nothing. Then I guess it wasn't meant to be. But if you do the work, then happy sailing. Now let's go to the movies. Let's do our thing. But I can't. For
Yeah,
my sanity, I
it
can't be
can't
the
be one
people
sided.
pleaser. What
Yeah.
can't be one sided, and for my sanity and for my peace, I can't be. I can't do the things that I used to do. I have to break cycles.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the hardest thing for me, was breaking cycles. I think a lot of people don't realize how hard that is.
It is
Um,
a struggle.
but
And
the analogy that I use for it, actually is, and people actually they really obtain when I say it like this, but I look at cycles as going on a roundabout. And it's like, at some point you have to get off to go to your direction, but you're basically sitting there trying to figure out, do I want to go straight and go down this road because it's quicker? But do I want to go this way, but it's more stoplights? Do I want to go this way, but it's going up a hill? Either way, you're going to get to your destination. It's just a matter of which way do you want to take. But if you're going to stay on this roundabout, you're going to continue to see the same scenery over and over and over again until you're ready to get off of that street and go to where you need to go. Either way, you're going to get there. One may feel easier than the other. Do what's right for you to get there, but don't stay on this roundabout any longer, because now you're pissing off the people that's behind you. You're pissing off the people in front of you, and you're basically pissing off yourself because you're seeing the same thing over and over. And eventually, you're going to get irritated. Eventually, you're going to get tired, because why am I seeing the same tree? Why am I
mm-hmm.
reading the same sign? Why am I driving in the same circle? Where do I need to go from here? And surprisingly, a lot of people get that. And I was like, okay, thanks. But that's just where I am in life. Is like, I had to get off a lot of roundabouts and just go and just
I love that.
understand
I
that.
love that analogy. I'm just here like digesting. I'm just like, man, he just dropped a whole nugget. Like, and it's factual. Like everything you said is factual, and I never really would have imagined something like that. So thank you. It's
Yeah.
really eye opening, and it makes you just take a step back and think, like, am I doing this? Am I doing this wrong? Am I doing this
Um,
right?
I
Let's figure it out.
I came up with I came up with that analogy because I feel like a lot of times, especially when you're discussing like mental health and trying to be better and do better in life, I think a lot of times a lot of times we say things but don't realize that everybody interprets it differently,
Hmm.
and you have to kind of match it. And it's almost like, even like you work with kids, every kid is not going to take what you say the same exact way, and sometimes they have to yell at one, but then the other one is like, no, I heard you the first time, I got it, let's go. Or
Hmm.
there's one where you're just like, no, I'm going to pull you to the side, we're going to sit, I'm going to show you this once, we're going to try it together the second time, and then the third time you're on your own. Everybody is different, so it's like just saying break a cycle is just like, okay, what do
Yeah,
you mean?
it's not easy, and
Go.
everyone learns differently. And I think you're alluding to what you just said is just everyone learns differently. I know, like
Yep.
when I coach, I have to have different styles for different players because what works for player A might not work for player B, and you just have to approach things differently. When I have kids where I know if I yell at them and harp at them, like it fuels them and makes them want to work harder. And then I have other kids where that is detrimental to their like their mindset and they'll just like check out. So you have to have that balance and truly understand what approach works for who and when do I need to do that. So it's definitely interesting. um, I've
Yeah.
really enjoyed everything that you said because it just really opened my eyes, and I was just sitting here like, damn, I feel like I'm in therapy right now.
um, and like just to add, like, and literally just to add like one last thing to that is like, if you think about it, think about what I said in the beginning of, I like to take things apart and put it back together. That is how, for me, that is how I came up with that analogy, because I have to put it in a sense of what ifs. And
Hmm.
typically I feel like what ifs can really tear you apart or be good. But one thing my therapist told me, and I always share this with people, is like, especially if you're a what if person, is why don't you answer your own question? And I did not understand what she said about that, because I was just like, every time we had to talk, I was just like, well, what if, what if, what if? And she literally made me sit and she said, you're going to answer every single question you just asked your what if, and tell me how you feel after you ask that question. And then how can we be better at that? Because if I say, well, what if the glass falls on the floor? Okay, well, how would you feel? How would you feel from that? Answer your question, and then you'll be able to move on. So now, like, I'm not gonna say it's cured my insomnia, but normally I'm up at night asking what ifs. But then when I'm like, okay, well, if that happens, then I would have to do this, 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 that, and the third, and I would feel angry, but it would get it done.
Yeah, I'm a
And
big
now I'm
what if
asleep.
person.
Yeah.
I but my what ifs are just like the worst case scenario.
Oh no,
But I
that's
never
me.
thought
See, that was me.
but I never thought of it that way. I never thought of like redirecting your what ifs to have it in a different mindset because I've always
And
been
I was gonna
that
say
person
that
where
was,
it's like, no,
and
you can
literally that was me keeping it like, and that was me literally just keeping it PG. But like, my what ifs are stuff that if people heard my what ifs, they would be like,
are you okay?
"Do you actually go to therapy?" So I'm just like, and it's like my what ifs, and it's like it almost creates scenarios where like my what ifs will literally almost make me cry, because then I'm like, but no, what if this really does happen? And then I'm like, well, at least I'll be prepared for the apocalypse, because clearly that's what I'm thinking about tonight. Um, and it's just like, you have to, like you just said, it takes you to a place where you redirect yourself. And then at least if you ask yourself, how do you feel? And you let yourself sit in that emotion, then it's like, okay, if this was to happen, at least this is kind of what it would feel like. It may be
Hmm.
different at that moment, but sorry, at least this is what it
That
is.
is true. That is true. That is true. Nah, man, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to hop on and have a conversation with me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I cannot speak today for some reason, but I really, I really did enjoy our conversation. And I feel like I did learn a lot. You dropped some nuggets in there, and I'm gonna keep them with me. I promise I will. If anyone wants to
Yeah.
continue having a conversation with you about anything that we've talked about today, what would be the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Instagram is probably the easiest. I'm usually always on there working or doing something. So of course it's the dot Tyler Bradshaw. And that's actually my name on almost all platforms at this point, because I've been switching around. Um, but I will lay this warning here. I love conversation. So if you start a conversation with me, I hope you're ready.
Hey, nothing wrong with it. I think that's the biggest thing is just being responsive to people. It's super
Yeah.
important. No, but I really do appreciate you, and I appreciate that everything is the same on all platforms because it makes it easy for me, but also it just makes it easier for people to find you. I think it helps your brand, and it's a key to marketing is just being the same everywhere. Makes it easy to
Yeah.
find. So.
Yeah, I've realized it makes it easier to find. Just going into like this journey, a lot of people are just like, if you have like 40 different names, I don't, we're just going to go with the easiest one. So I
Right.
just decided to finally change everything to one. But no, that's where most people can reach me is just there. Like I said, I love conversation. I'm very responsive. Sometimes it does go hidden, so I can't see certain things, but if I find it, I will have a conversation with you. And I'm always open to anything.
Well, thank you again. I do appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And of course, and thank you all for tuning in and listening in. I'm going to put all of Tyler's information in the description below. If you all happen to reach out to him, please, please just make sure you notate on how you found him. That way he has an idea. It would be much appreciated. Again, thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you give us a follow on all social media platforms. We are on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, you name it. It's at Ignyte Your Y. That's INGYTE, not with an I. Again, thank you all for tuning in. So make sure you find your purpose, ignite your why, and I'll holler at you guys later. Peace.
See you guys.